Life does not change when you wish for it, hope for it, or wait for it. Life changes the moment you decide to kill every excuse and step into the version of yourself that no one recognizes anymore. People live years, even decades, telling themselves stories of why they are stuck, too young, too old, too poor, too unlucky, too busy, too tired, and in every excuse they repeat, they bury the possibility of who they could have been. Excuses are invisible chains, shackles that keep a person locked inside the same identity, never allowing them to grow beyond the comfort zone of their old self. And here lies the hard truth: if you truly want to reinvent yourself, if you want to become so unrecognizable that even your past self wouldn't believe who you have become, you must first execute the excuses that have been running your life like a script written by fear. Reinvention is not about small improvements. It is about tearing down the weak foundation of the old self and building a stronger, sharper, and more disciplined version of who you are destined to be. This means waking up one day and refusing to explain why you can't, because the world does not reward excuses. It rewards results. The great transformation begins with a brutal honesty, admitting that no matter what happened in your past, no matter how much pain you've endured, or how unfair life has been, none of that can be allowed to justify staying stuck. People admire those who rise despite the odds, not those who complain about them. If you want to reinvent yourself, stop telling the world your reasons and start showing it your results. Reinvention is war. War against laziness, war against procrastination, war against self-doubt, war against the victim mentality. And this war can only be won when you burn the bridge between you and your old identity, leaving no way back to comfort, no way back to excuses, no way back to who you used to be. Every step you take into this new life will be uncomfortable, lonely, and demanding, but that is the price of becoming unrecognizable, of becoming a version of yourself that even your excuses cannot control anymore. When you kill the excuses, you kill the old self. And when the old self dies, the new self, the stronger self, the unbreakable self, finally begins to live. This is how reinvention happens, not in whispers but in war cries, not in hesitation, but in absolute conviction that you were not born to stay the same, you were born to become more. Reinvention is not a single decision. It is a relentless process of killing the person you once were, every single day, until there is nothing left of the weak version that held you back. The reason most people fail to transform their lives is because they cling to the identity that gives them comfort, even though that very identity is the prison of their excuses. Think about it. The person you are right now is the result of your habits, your choices, your standards, your excuses, and your fears. If you continue to operate with the same mind, same patterns, and same daily rituals, you will never escape the orbit of who you are today. Reinvention demands destruction. It demands that you break apart the old systems and habits that kept you average and replace them with routines that force you to grow. This is why you must begin to live differently. Wake up earlier than your excuses tell you to. Push your body further than your laziness wants you to. Feed your mind with discipline when your comfort seeks distraction. Surround yourself with people who force you to level up instead of those who validate your stagnation. Because the truth is this: excuses are contagious, and if you stay in the company of excuse makers, you will inherit their mediocrity. Reinvention requires you to cut ties, not just with people who drag you down, but with the parts of yourself that have kept you weak. That means killing procrastination, killing self-pity, killing the belief that you need motivation before action. You don't. You need action first, and motivation follows. Every day you take action without excuse, you build a new identity brick by brick, and this new identity begins to overwrite the old self until one day, you look in the mirror and realize that you have become someone your excuses no longer recognize. You become sharper, stronger, more decisive, more disciplined. This is how the unrecognizable version of you emerges. Not because you dreamed about it, not because you wished for it, but because you had the courage to kill the excuses that tried to survive inside of you. And here's the deeper truth: excuses are not destroyed once, they are destroyed daily. Every morning, when you rise, you must kill them again. Every time you feel tired, every time you feel unmotivated, every time you are tempted to delay what must be done, you are standing face to face with the old self, and you must kill it again. Reinvention is not a one-time act. It is a daily execution of weakness, until only strength remains. And when you master this daily execution, the world will not recognize you, because you will no longer be the same person who once needed an excuse just to survive. You will have become a person who lives without justification, without apology, without hesitation. That is when the reinvention is complete. The journey of becoming unrecognizable begins with a radical understanding. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you discipline. And no one will drag you into greatness against your will. Every excuse you have ever made has one thing in common. It was designed to protect your comfort, not your potential. People live entire lives chained by comfort, and then they wonder why they remain the same person year after year. They want change, but they do not want the pain that change demands. Reinvention is not just about improving your life. It is about completely rewriting who you are, until the old version of yourself cannot survive in the world you now inhabit. The world respects transformation, but only if it is real, only if it is earned through sacrifice. You cannot simply announce you are different. You must prove it in the silence of early mornings, in the sweat of relentless work, in the nights you go without sleep because your vision matters more than your comfort. Excuses will always whisper to you, telling you that you are too tired, too late, too inexperienced, too unlucky, too broken. But listen closely, those excuses are lies designed by the weaker version of yourself to keep you enslaved to mediocrity. If you want to reinvent yourself, you must silence that voice permanently. You must replace every excuse with a reason why you cannot afford to stay the same. Instead of saying, "I don't have time," say, "If I don't change now, I will waste the years I cannot get back." Instead of saying, "I'm not ready," say, "If I wait until I'm ready, I'll die waiting." Instead of saying, "I don't feel motivated," say, "Motivation is irrelevant. Action is all that matters." This is how you begin to kill excuses, not by debating them, not by negotiating with them, but by replacing them with truths that cut deeper than comfort ever could. Reinvention demands this level of raw honesty. Because until you tell yourself the truth about why you've stayed the same, you will never gather the courage to become unrecognizable. You must confront the reality that most of your suffering is not from circumstances, but from excuses you've allowed to control your decisions. And here's the paradox, the very moment you kill excuses, the very moment you decide to act regardless of how you feel, life begins to bend in your favor. Opportunities appear, not because the world suddenly changes, but because you finally align yourself with the kind of person who notices and seizes them. Reinvention is not magic. It is the logical outcome of killing excuses long enough that discipline becomes your default setting. When you operate like this, when you no longer need someone to push you, when your excuses no longer hold weight, you become unstoppable. The world begins to look at you differently, because your results, your energy, your decisions, and your presence no longer resemble who you once were. That is when people whisper, "He's unrecognizable, she's not the same anymore." But understand this, you did not get there by luck, you got there by courage. Courage to face the truth, courage to kill the lies, courage to rise every single day when no one was watching. And that is why your reinvention will last. Because it is not a mask, not a performance, not a temporary burst of motivation. It is who you are now. You burned the bridge back to the old self, and the only path left is forward. This is how excuses die and greatness is born. Reinvention is not a single decision made once in your life. It is a battle fought daily, moment by moment, in the hidden corners of your habits, your thoughts, and your choices. And this is where most people fail. They think reinvention is an event, a breakthrough, a sudden flash of transformation, when in reality it is the slow, relentless death of the old self and the steady rise of the new. If you truly want to become unrecognizable, you must accept that the old you has to die. Not partly, not conditionally, but completely, because you cannot build a new identity on the weak foundation of excuses. Excuses are the soft soil where dreams sink and disappear, but discipline is the unshakable rock where new lives are built. You have to stop entertaining the voice that says, "Tomorrow will be better," or "When things calm down, I'll start," or "Once I have more money, I'll take action." Because these are not truths, they are delays, and delays become decades before you even realize it. Reinvention demands urgency, the kind of urgency that makes you act today, even when you are unprepared, even when you are afraid, even when every fiber of your being wants to rest. If you study the people who have rebuilt themselves into something unrecognizable, you will notice a common pattern. They stopped waiting for the perfect time and created movement in imperfect conditions. They refused to negotiate with excuses. They understood that pain was not a punishment, but the currency of growth. Pain is the test life gives to determine whether you are serious about becoming someone new. And when you embrace it rather than escape it, you are rewarded with transformation. Reinvention is not just about changing what you do. It is about changing who you are, how you think, how you respond, and what you tolerate. The old version of you tolerated laziness, procrastination, negative company, and fear disguised as logic. But the unrecognizable version of you has no space for such things. Reinvention is ruthless, because if you give excuses even the smallest space in your new life, they will grow roots again and drag you back into mediocrity. That is why reinvention feels lonely, why it feels heavy, because it requires you to walk away from people who enable your excuses, to distance yourself from habits that numb your potential, and to leave behind the comfort zones that once gave you security. Reinvention means saying goodbye to the version of yourself that others were comfortable with, the version that never made them feel threatened, the version that never made them question their own choices. When you rise, when you kill excuses and live with discipline, people will notice, and not all of them will applaud. Some will resent you, some will doubt you, some will secretly hope you fail, so that their excuses can still feel valid. But you cannot live for their approval, because your reinvention is not about being liked. It is about becoming the version of yourself you were meant to be all along. Becoming unrecognizable means living in such a way that when you look back 1 year from now, 5 years from now, you cannot believe you were ever the person you once were. It means your discipline, your consistency, your focus, your courage, and your results are so sharp, so undeniable, that the old you feels like a stranger. This level of transformation is possible for anyone, but it is reserved only for those who are willing to bleed for it, to grind for it, to sacrifice for it. You will not stumble into reinvention, you will fight for it. You will wake up earlier, stay up later, train harder, learn more, risk more, and endure more than the average person. Because the average person is addicted to excuses while you are committed to excellence. And slowly, as the weeks turn into months, and the months turn into years, something incredible happens. The excuses stop coming, because they no longer recognize the person you've become. They used to have power over you. They used to control your choices, but now they bounce off of you like weak arrows against an unbreakable wall. You have reprogrammed your mind, rebuilt your habits, reshaped your identity, and at that moment, you are no longer recognizable. Not to your old self, not to your old friends, and not to the world that once underestimated you. That is when you realize the deepest truth. Reinvention was never about impressing others. It was about proving to yourself that the person you dreamed of becoming was real all along. And now, you are finally living as that person. Most people spend their entire lives running in circles, because they never realize one powerful truth. Excuses do not just waste your time, they destroy your identity. And as long as you keep making them, you will always remain a watered down version of who you could have been. Reinvention begins the very moment you make a decision that excuses are no longer an option. Because once you take them off the table, you are forced to face the raw reality of your choices. If you say you want success but you allow excuses, your actions will never match your words. But if you remove excuses, you must either act or admit that your dream means nothing to you, and that honesty is where transformation begins. Every time you blame your circumstances, your upbringing, your boss, your parents, or even the economy, you give away your power to change. Because the truth is, the moment you stop pointing fingers and accept full responsibility, you put yourself back in control. Reinvention requires radical ownership. You must own your failures, your weaknesses, your habits, and your mindset. Because only when you own them can you change them. The unrecognizable version of you will not be built on lies or half-truths. It will be built on raw accountability. Look at the people who have reinvented themselves beyond recognition. Every one of them had reasons to quit, reasons to slow down, reasons to give up. But they refused to entertain those reasons, and instead they rewrote their story through daily choices. Reinvention is not glamorous, it is not loud, it does not come with applause. It comes in the quiet hours when no one is watching, when you are tempted to break your own promises, and you say no. It comes when your body screams for comfort, but you push through discomfort, when your mind tells you to stop, but your spirit insists on one more step. The truth is, reinvention requires suffering, because without suffering, there is no death of the old self, and without that death, there is no room for the new you to emerge. To become unrecognizable, you must outgrow your old excuses the way a snake sheds its skin. It is painful, it is uncomfortable, but it is necessary for survival and growth. Excuses will whisper to you every single day, trying to convince you that your situation is different, that you are too tired, too old, too busy, or too unlucky. But when you silence them and take action anyway, you build a new kind of self-trust. The kind that says, no matter what happens, I will not stop. That trust becomes the foundation of your new identity. Reinvention is less about achieving external success and more about earning internal respect. If you cannot look in the mirror and respect the person staring back, no amount of money, fame, or recognition will fill that void. But when you become the person who keeps promises to yourself, who does what you said you would do long after the feeling has faded, you become unstoppable. Because now your belief in yourself is unshakable. People will begin to see you differently. They will say you've changed. They will say you're not the same. And they'll be right. You are no longer the person who waits for life to change. You are the person who forces life to change by changing yourself. And in that moment, you will understand what it truly means to become unrecognizable. It is not just about success, it is about power. The power to reinvent yourself again and again, to rise from failure, to rebuild after loss, to stand taller every time life tries to break you. That is the path of reinvention. It is brutal, it is demanding, but it is worth it, because the greatest tragedy is not failing. It is living and dying as the same person, never knowing who you could have become if only you had killed the excuses and dared to reinvent yourself completely. Reinvention is not something you do once in your lifetime. It is a process you must repeat whenever life demands more from you, because the world does not stay still, opportunities do not stay open forever, and growth does not wait for those who hesitate. Every stage of your life will challenge you to shed your old self and step into a new one. But most people resist this call because they are addicted to the comfort of who they used to be. They keep replaying the same identity, the same routines, the same habits, because it feels safe, even though it is slowly suffocating their potential. To become unrecognizable, you must be willing to destroy the version of yourself that no longer serves you. And this destruction is not an accident. It is a deliberate act. It means cutting ties with the habits that keep you weak, breaking free from the circles of people who keep you small, and abandoning the stories you tell yourself about why you can't do more. The person you are today is only temporary, a rough draft, a sketch of who you could become. But to evolve, you must let go of that sketch and dare to create something new, even if it means starting over. This is where most people fail. They want the results of reinvention without the pain of releasing who they are now. They want to keep their excuses, their comfort, their familiar patterns, but also want to magically step into greatness. Life does not work that way. You cannot take your excuses with you into your future, because excuses are the chains that keep you tied to your past. If you want to step into a new identity, you must burn the bridge behind you so there is no way back. This is the essence of reinvention, closing the door on your old life so completely that the only option is forward. You must become ruthless with your excuses. Do not negotiate with them. Do not reason with them. Kill them on sight. Because the moment you allow even one to survive, it multiplies, it spreads, and soon your entire vision is infected with the disease of hesitation. Reinvention also means accepting the truth that no one is coming to save you. You can wait for motivation, for inspiration, for the perfect timing. But waiting is just another form of excuse. The strongest people are not the ones who had the best circumstances. They are the ones who acted despite their circumstances. They reinvented themselves not because they were ready, but because they refused to stay the same. And here is the paradox. When you take action before you are ready, you become ready through action. Every step you take, no matter how small, builds momentum, and momentum is the fuel of reinvention. Slowly, you will notice something powerful happening. You will stop identifying with your old self. The things that used to scare you will no longer control you. The habits that used to tempt you will lose their grip, and the excuses that once felt so convincing will sound laughable. This is the shift of identity. Reinvention is not about changing what you do, it is about changing who you are. Once your identity shifts, your actions follow naturally, because now you no longer see yourself as the old you. You see yourself as the unrecognizable version, the one who demands more, who expects more, who lives at a higher standard. And the more you reinforce this new identity with consistent action, the more real it becomes. Until one day you wake up and realize you don't even remember the person who used to make excuses, because they are gone. You have buried them, and in their place stands someone unrecognizable. Not because you pretended, not because you wished for it, but because you earned it through discipline, pain, and relentless commitment. This is the cycle of reinvention, and if you embrace it, you will never again fear change, because you will know that every time life asks you to evolve, you already have the strength to rise. Reinvention is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of an entirely new life, because once you kill the excuses and destroy the old identity, you stand at a crossroads where the only path forward is growth, evolution, and transformation. Most people stop here. They get a taste of change, a glimpse of progress, and then they settle, thinking they have done enough. But to truly become unrecognizable, you must refuse to stop at better, and keep pressing until you reach great, and then keep going until even greatness feels like just another stepping stone. The trap of comfort will always try to pull you back. The comfort of your old habits, the comfort of mediocrity, the comfort of excuses disguised as logic. But this is where your willpower must rise above your emotions. When you feel tired, when doubt creeps in, when the voice of laziness whispers in your ear, you must remember that your future self is being built in those exact moments. The difference between those who reinvent themselves once and those who remain unrecognizable forever is consistency. Reinvention is not a single act of courage. It is a lifestyle of courage. Every morning you wake up, you are faced with the choice to either live as your old self or step into your new self, and the one you choose repeatedly becomes your destiny. Think about it: the people who inspire you, the ones you admire, the legends of history and the icons of today. They are not remembered because they stayed the same. They are remembered because they kept evolving, because they never allowed comfort to rot their potential, because they chose to kill their excuses before those excuses could kill their dreams. Reinvention is about proving to yourself every day that you will not allow weakness to dictate your actions. It is about rejecting the story that you can't and replacing it with the truth that you must. The final step of becoming unrecognizable is not about the world recognizing your change. It is about you no longer recognizing your own reflection, because the person staring back at you is stronger, sharper, wiser, and hungrier than the one who started this journey. You will look back and wonder how you ever lived in the cage of excuses, how you ever tolerated mediocrity, how you ever allowed yourself to be less than you could be. This is the ultimate reward of reinvention. Not money, not fame, not recognition, but freedom. Freedom from excuses, freedom from the weight of old identities, freedom from the chains of hesitation, freedom to create, to grow, to become whoever you decide to be, again and again, without limit. Because once you realize you can reinvent yourself once, you realize you can reinvent yourself endlessly, and that realization is power. You become unstoppable. You become unrecognizable. And that is the secret that separates those who live small lives from those who live extraordinary ones: the courage to kill excuses before they kill you, the discipline to build a new identity brick by brick, and the audacity to keep reinventing until nothing about your old self remains. So the next time you feel fear, the next time you hear the voice of doubt, the next time you are tempted to wait for a better moment, remember this: excuses are nothing more than lies you tell yourself to stay the same, and every second you entertain them, you are burying your potential alive. Do not let that happen. Step forward. Burn the excuses. Reinvent yourself so completely that the world has no choice but to take notice, and when you do, you will discover the truth: that the greatest power any human being can ever possess is the ability to rewrite their story at will. That is what makes you unrecognizable, not to others, but to the weaker version of yourself you left behind. That is how you kill the excuses and step into the life you were always meant to live.